Welcome back. You're listening to the discussion, The New and Easy Federal Buying Experience, sponsored by Overstock Government on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Jonathan Johnson, the CEO of Overstock. Now, Jonathan, for a break, we got to kind of understand how this pilot is working. We got to understand your role in the pilot and some of the things you guys are offering through the Overstock platform. Let's maybe broaden the conversation just a little bit more and talk about what some of the things you're seeing from this pilot. I remember reporting back in maybe June of 2020, there are at least I'll say 5 agencies who are going to take part in this pilot program. The Departments of Veterans Affairs, Justice, Labor, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency and GSA itself. I'm assuming those 5 are still taking part, maybe others have added, but what are you seeing? What are some of those trends? How's the first year gone?
Well, I think the first year's gone really well. The GSA went to Congress and asked for this to be continued. My understanding is it's up to 13 agencies now that are participating in the pilot. So it's getting, a broader look, which is good. So far, everything seems to be trending toward this pilot is something that the government can and wants to make permanent if it continues to go as it has thus far. Our goal in this is to really improve the government purchasing experience and make the pilot successful enough that it goes beyond a pilot to something permanent. Pilot to permanent, that's what I would say.
There you go. You wrote my headline for me. That's perfect.
Anything I can do to help, Jason.
E-commerce portal, pilot to permanent. That's great news. 13 agencies, and obviously, as you said, the goal is to continue to improve the buying experience. We talked just a little bit earlier about the pandemic. Did that keep us maybe a little bit of a slow beginning to this effort? But it has started to pick up. What are you seeing lately?
So as the pandemic forced lots of people to work from home, the office purchasing slowed down. So I think, everyone who's participated in the pilot, from the government agencies to the e-commerce platforms, all have seen a little bit slower start than was expected. But as people have begun to return to work, it's picking up, and we've seen increased sales week over week for the bulk of the pilot period. And we've seen that furniture and furnishings have been what most people have been buying from the Overstock government site. That's, of course, what we're best at and what I think people would know us for. And that makes sense, that as people get back to the office and realize, okay, that it was getting a little raggedy before I left, time to upgrade it now. That totally makes sense that that's what's happening.
It's also probably the piece that, as you return to the office, this open office concept, this idea of how federal offices will look in the future, is also requiring them to relook at, do we have the right furniture? Do we have the right pieces and parts to make it safe? Do we need to put up barriers again, like cubicles? I had a great conversation with the GSA administrator, Robin Carnahan, a couple of weeks ago, and that's one of the first things she brought up, is re-looking at what the federal office space looks like in the future. Is that where a lot of questions you all get from agencies who want to maybe, okay, can I do this? Can I buy that? Again, any trends from what you're seeing from the customers?
Yeah, trends are largely towards furniture, and you're right. As people have to redesign offices for a post-pandemic world, it's a natural time for furniture spending to go up. One of the things that we've heard from those participating in the pilot is how easy this is for administrators, those that are filing the reports. They can open a single cart for their department, and if I'm in the department, I can surf the Overstock government website, find what I want, put it in my administrators or my procurement officer's cart. At the end of the day, she's amassed the group's cart. She can submit the order. She gets an instant and easy spending report. If necessary, she can set limits on what any one person can spend, put approvals on there. It really becomes a trusted and secure uh, purchasing place. That's been the focus of the pilot, to make it easier for administrators, easier for people buying product, so that it streamlines the process. And I think that's what every member of the pilot platforms has done, is tried to make this better for administrators, better for people shopping for product.
You bring up the agency side, and the other piece is, as you mentioned, the easy for administrators, easy for procurement officers to kind of collect and buy. It's also the data piece, and maybe talk a little bit about that side of it, because there's always concern about, okay, what's my data being used for? Who's holding my data? How's it being held? When you go to, we'll just call other sites, sometimes you get, hey, I saw you looking for X. Now here's a bunch of ads for X, and that gets frustrating to people who are like, I just bought X. Why am I getting ads for X? So maybe talk about the data piece.
Yeah, well, the data piece is really important. And usually consumers aren't that interested in holding their own data. They know what they bought. But when it's a government agency, it's not just one person that's buying things. And so we supply the data that we've gathered right back to the government agency, so it can see buying trends within its agency. It can use that data for better purchasing power. Maybe there's bulk purchases that come out of it. But giving the data to the government is really one of the focuses of this pilot. And it's done so in a private and secure way. Nothing that's creepy there. Anytime you're on an online site, they're gathering data. We keep that private. We give it to the government. It's part of what the pilot program is. It really is meant to give government data so that it can become more efficient in its purchasing going forward. And we think that's happening.
I think that's one of the goals of this pilot from the beginning, is the efficiency side. We talked a lot about transparency, but the efficiency side, one of the things that GSA has pushed forward over the last several years is, for instance, bulk purchases of laptops and desktops. A couple times a year, we're going to buy X amount of thousands of laptops to get a better price. I imagine agencies can do the same if they're seeing a trend. Hey, we keep buying these one-offs on paper or these one-offs on pens. And I know those are easy examples, but they can start seeing, okay, everyone seems to be buying these products on the 30th of the month. Well, maybe we could collect them all at once and then ask for some sort of high volume discount. I'm not sure you all do that, but is that part of that, why that data is so important?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And I also think it's, as offices reconfigure, it will be interesting to see what those offices are doing. Are they buying more couches and sofas and area rugs so that there's, gathering places for collaboration? Or is it that they're going back to the cubicle existence and putting, plexiglass up in between it? Each office and each agency may be approaching that differently, but having that data and seeing what the purchasing is, I think data can always be helpful to make decisions in the future. And that's what we've agreed to do and are doing as part of this pilot.
The other piece to the data discussion, I think it's important to highlight, is the analytics that come from it. You use Overstock. Oh, hey, we've bought for 6 months. Now we can see the data trends. Okay, now we bought for a year. We can continue to see those data trends. Several of the agencies that are involved in this pilot, are you starting to see them come back with new approaches to buying because of those trends, or is it maybe a little too early?
I think it's still too early there. And I should note that, part of the data that we're providing is who the ultimate supplier is. Is it a minority-owned business? Is it a woman-owned business? Is it a small business? All that stuff I think is important for the government to get in these instant and easy to read reports. Sometimes data can be overwhelming. It has to come in a way that's easy to digest. That's what we've been good at for a long time, because it's what we do internally. We gather lots of data on our Overstock.com customer purchases, and we figured out how to process it in a way that makes it easy for us to use. Now we're doing the same for the agencies on Overstock Government. So I think part of why we were selected to be in this pilot is that at our root, we're a technology company that makes data easy to digest.
We talked earlier about the transparency. We've talked about data. Are there other benefits that maybe agencies may not be as obvious to agencies as they use these e-commerce platforms that you think is worth highlighting? I mean, you talked a lot about the carts, and you talked about the several things already. I'm just kind of asking if there's maybe the unintended benefits that people were like, oh, I didn't realize because of this, or we didn't think about it until it happened.
Well, you know what? I think ease of shopping, this single cart for an agency, free returns, being able to schedule when the product comes, knowing that the estimated delivery date will be the delivery date. All of these are, part of the ease of use that we've gotten so good at in our normal e-commerce site that I think as people use Overstock, boy, this is the easiest purchasing experience I've had. And then on the administrator side, the easy to digest data. I mean, what we're trying to do is make a streamlined and easy process. And I'm sure all the pilot participants are, because everyone wants this pilot to be permanent and for the government to, be more efficient and have ease of use in their purchasing.
Jonathan, we're just about out of time before I let you go. As we move into year 2 of the pilot, and then obviously year 3 is coming up, what's some thoughts that you want to make sure agencies, one, how's it going to change for Overstock? And 2, what's the message that maybe you want to make sure you leave agencies with?
Well, we keep expanding. How it will change in year 2 and years 3 is we're going to keep expanding product that we offer. One of the things we're good at is we're seeing where there's demand and we find product if we don't have it. So, keep looking at our site, keep typing in search terms, and we'll keep providing product. The other thing I just want to emphasize again is how useful this is for the administrator and all the reports they get. I would emphasize free shipping, free returns. I don't want this to be too salesy, but it really is a streamlined system for everyone involved. The person who needs a new chair, the administrator who wants to set limits on what people can spend or not, and the ability to get reports. It's a great thing that the government's doing. We hope it goes from pilot to permanent.
All right, as I said, it's a good headline. I'm going to steal it from you, but unfortunately, we are out of time for today. So let me thank my guest. Jonathan Johnson is the CEO of Overstock. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time.
Jason, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to the discussion, The New and Easy Federal Buying Experience, sponsored by Overstock Government on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Overstock.